I'm so mad right now. I've been recording for like 30 minutes straight, fucking answering questions and yapping and stuff. But I tried to pause the video because I was interrupted. And when I came back, never mind the fact that I actually apparently didn't pause properly. But yeah, but also apparently, even though the thing was recording, it just didn't save any of it. It's like maximum file size reach, which is a notification I only got when I came back. And yo, I'm so fucking pissed right now, bro. I didn't want to start the video fucking cussing and all that stuff, bro. But I'm because some shit like this always happens. I am way too fucking broke to be playing technological catch up with all you niggas, bro. I'm so tired, bro. And I'm also way too inexperienced from said um lack lack of access to figure all this shit out. Because what do you mean it was recording for 30 minutes? It says maximum file size reach. The next recording will be in a different file. Niggas, but it didn't save the file. So it would just maybe it's still saving or something. I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. But I'm fucking pissed, bro. Whatever. We'll start over, I guess. I don't know. I'm not even gonna play music or nothing. At least for the next 20 minutes, I won't be interrupted. I can guarantee that. I don't know. Maybe I should segment these, but it's starting to piss me off to the point where I'm actually starting to sweat a little bit, and I kind of want to change. So I'll pause. All right. Some a bit lighter, but the problem is not having a hoodie on means the mic isn't as close to my face, so we'll have to make do with this. Took off my glasses. I guess I can see fine. I'm just gonna continue from where I was, and then we'll loop back to the questions I already answered. But it is what it is. It is what it is. 怒ったぞ if I even said that correctly. Top 5 languages you wish you could be fluent in instantly. What are the top 5 countries you would like to visit? Now, for me, what I would like to. I thought there was something. What I would like to learn, of course, is Japanese. And also, I would like to relearn Sesotho because it's a language that I was not taught by my, immediate family at a young age. At a young age. Do I have to project my voice more? I'm gonna have to. I'm so scared of fucking popping in. I watch this shit back, and my voice is too fucking dim because it's so far away from my mouth, and I'm gonna have to. We're gonna have to keep this energy, bro. Yeah, yeah. English is my first language. Um, I had learned Sesotho Tswana from my grandmother when I was about 3 or so, but for some reason, as I got more proficient, I moved and we moved here where we are now, and I've been for the past, more for most of my life. People would just, I would speak to them, and they would just reply back to me in English inexplicably. They would never have any. I never knew why, but I followed suit because like whatever, these niggas just keep speaking back to me in English. So I switched back to English, and because I wasn't using the language anymore, I had forgotten most of it. So I can understand some Sesotho just fine or whatever. Not that great. Not that great. But I can't really speak. I'm not. I'm. I can eavesdrop a little bit, but I'm not good conversationally. So and we're free, yes, so to speak. But it's not like I had much educational opportunity to learn it formally or anything. So for the entirety of my schooling, I had just been learning Afrikaans. So I can read and write Afrikaans okay. Speaking not great, and even if I was, I wouldn't want to do it because there has never been a language as physically taxing as Afrikaans. Like it's tiring to try and speak or read, like read that shit. And I'm not being a native English speaker means I'm not the most inherently intrinsically interested in learning any sort of most Western European or just European languages in general. Beyond the fact that they're just too similar, but also just nice. And look, man, I'm not trying to cape for no, but let me not get on my fucking shit. Y'all know what it is. Nick's going. Let me chill. Let me chill. Yo, but um, those are those two. She said five. So there's a range of languages that would just be naturally advent. Wait, no, sorry, Sanskrit. I really want to learn to read, especially Sanskrit, and speak Sanskrit, because there's a lot of stuff I would like to learn about and read that is within that language. So it would be very important for me to be able to learn it in its original form. But as a language, it's one of the very few, especially non. It's one of these languages that feel very, very therapeutic to just speak and pronounce things in. I don't know what it is. It's something about the its cadence and its rhythm and the way it pronounces its consonants. This holding of tension and then release that you can feel as you speak. It just has a very therapeutic quality to it as well. Um, a lot of older languages are like this, where there's something about them that feels very tactile, very visceral. But also when you think about what they describe and how they phrase things, it has a very uh, it feels very connected to our human essence, I suppose. It not only feels like visceral and tactile, like so you can think of languages that are somewhat onomatopoeic. That's a very literal in way to interpret it, but like there's just certain things that the way it feels in your chest, just it feels real. But also when it comes to what it describes and the way it describes certain things, it feels very connected. Like English is a very sterile language to me, especially in its monoform. It's so sauceless, it's so drab and sterile. It feels very weird, sterile, and dead. And the way that it describes things nowadays feels everything feels disjointed and disconnected in English. Even old English didn't really have the same feel. Even fucking Shakespearean English sounds a little bit better, alas. But yeah, besides those three, as the Soto, Japanese, and Sanskrit, the last two would probably be just two languages that would be very advantageous to learn. Some of which I do have a genuine affinity for, like a intrinsic desire to learn, but they're not the biggest priority or anything. But it's more so like I'm going to encounter a lot of people who speak it. That's really what it boils down to. Or there's maybe content that I would like to read, or media that I would like to that not would just like to, but is maybe important for me to be aware of that exists in that language. So so let's there's a range of languages. So I'll pick two: Arabic and Mandarin. Right. Arabic as well is kind of an example of sort of what I was talking about before. When it comes to a language that feels like connected to being, connected to being here, I guess. And you can, in just the way it sounds, the way it feels in your chest, but also when you actually listen to what it describes and how it describes certain things. But I would also, there's a lot of, I guess, text and history and literature that is within that language that I would like to read and such. And again, it's a very major language that would be very advantageous to learn anyway, you know? Similar with Mandarin. Of course, I do have a genuine affinity for, I don't even want to say Chinese culture, but Chinese cultures, if anything. And I used to do Mandarin in high school. I was top of my class back then. I was pretty good at it, but fortunately, because I haven't practiced or anything, I pretty much forgot most of it, man. Um, but yeah, also, I seem to have a few, Mandarin speaking friends and acquaintances and such. So those two. So I might pick those two, but it's those two, and then what? French, Spanish. Unfortunately, no, because like I don't know. There are things about English structurally that are kind of just annoying. Like, what is this language? And it seems like French is just that, but like up to 11. Um, I'm not. I'm not. I'm not one to glaze the French language, except when it's coming out of the mouth of somebody who's not a white French person. I feel like French is most interesting to me when it's not from French people most of the time. But again, there's a lot of cool literature that I would like to read. There's a lot of stuff that would probably be necessary to read, historical or even current event political stuff that would be advantageous to, be able to consume in French, right? So part of it is also to connect with, I'm an English speaker because the majority of this continent was colonized by the British. But second to that is French. So a lot of places in Africa that I would like to visit or see, or just places I like to learn about, and that have people who I would like to be able to communicate with, whether Madagascar or most of a big part of West Africa, are French speaking. So it would be very advantageous to be able to speak French. Same as Spanish. Why am I pointing at the camera? Hey man, I ain't gonna say too much. Why am I making it ethnic? Yeah, maybe Spanish. And then what's the last one that I had in mind? Oh yeah, isiZulu. Konje, Iban. I live in South Africa. You know, it would be very good to have both language families down. You know, but I guess which of these I would pick out of all these five for my last two just depends on where my life goes and such. Like those first three are mandatory for me, irrespective of where my life goes. But the other, if I'm gonna stay here, and if especially if I move somewhere where there's more Zulu people, like for the rest of my life or so, I gotta learn. I obviously gotta like formally learn a basic amount, but like if I want to become like fluent or like fluent in, um, you gotta be. If I'm like, it depends on where I'm going, bro. But I don't know. Am I gonna live in China for a while? Who's to say? Or just who's my circle going to be dominating? I may not even necessarily have to move to China to be in a position where it would be much more advantageous for me to be able to speak Mandarin. And that's about it. There are other languages that I have just a personal affinity for, but I'm not going to put that in the bottom two because it's like, when am I going to use these? But it would just be cool for me to be able to learn. But mainly a lot of lost indigenous languages, either from here or maybe some Native American languages, maybe the Ainu languages or Ryukyu languages. One of these. Um, I don't know what else I was thinking of. It would be nice to be able to speak like Cantonese. Cantonese just has a certain kind of nice grooviness to it. I like the way Cantonese sounds. Um, or like Swahili or Wolof, Swahili or Wolof, or especially Yoruba, one of these kind of languages. But you know, it took a lot longer answering the question. But it's a thing. What are your top five countries you'd like to visit? I was just talking to someone about this. So first on my list, so this is spiraling out from where I am, right? Nike mo Gauteng, equal. So I'm not equally as in Johannesburg, but like mo Gauteng, which still technically means place of gold, whatever. Yeah. So, um, yo, I just blanked for like a second. Not like my thoughts were gone, but like I like the page refreshed. Um, where was I? Yeah, Lesotho. Lesotho. It's a place that I would like to go to learn more about my heritage and such. As someone from the as a Mokoena, as somebody from the Bakwena clan, which is like the main clan of the royal Basotho family. King Mushoeshoe the first and all that. So that's the clan from which I derive. My first name is in fact a reference to one of the first king's mentors slash advisors slash uncle, his uncle Iro, if you will. um, and you know, I'd like to visit, Tababusiu. I'd like to see so um, Lesotho, which is a country that's inside of South Africa. If you look on a map, you'll see like a literal country that's landlocked inside of South Africa. It's called Lesotho. So this is the Basotho Kingdom. And by the way, for some context, the reason why this country exists is because um, during the 19th century or so, as both the 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 Afrikaners, who were like descended from a mix of Dutch, French, Huguenot, and other settlers, were essentially fighting against the British settlers for who gets to control the country and such. And there were wars between each other and also conflicts between them and different groups here, right? Um, the Basotho were in a conflict with the British, and the British had colonized them for a while. But it got to a point where the Afrikaners were the ones who were taking over most of the country, and the Basotho Kingdom did not want to become instated into that. So what's this? the British had granted them had granted them at some point independent granted them independence, and so they got to be an independent state even during the days of apartheid. So they were somewhat shielded from everything that's afoot. So they have their own thing going on over there, right? So that's why the country exists. But besides, you know, those personal reasons why I would like to visit, it's also just like a really cool looking place. It's the only country, it's the only place in the entirety of the continent where you can go skiing or snowboarding because it actually snows a lot there. So the Basuto are actually typically mountain dwelling people, known for their iconic blankets and horse riding and all that stuff. So you could say that my lineage derives from the village hidden in the clouds, if you will. I don't have a headband for that though, because it's literally as high up in the mountains as the clouds are. You get to see this. You have the snow from the source. You get to pick the snow from the clouds personally. um, you get to pick which snowflakes you want your snow in. No, but yeah, I would also like to go there for that reason. It's just very convenient because I is one of the skiing snowboarding is one of those things that I've always wanted to like do or try, but it's just like where the hell? What am I gonna have to go to fucking a Nordic country or fucking Hokkaido to do that? Come on, bro. But no, I can just go Lesotho, which is just below there, you know. So that's the first country I would like to visit. Second, obviously Japan, but various places within Japan. From yeah, Tokyo is actually very big and almost honestly seems like an overwhelming place. That's not where I would like to visit first. There's various places within every single prefecture that I would like to visit, but I specifically want to visit Osaka because Osaka seems like a much more fun city to visit. Like if we're talking about a big, a big modern city that I would like to visit, Osaka is a big one. But somewhere that's much more serene and calm and that I would very much like to visit is I don't know if the city is Ehime and it's in Matsuyama or the city is Matsuyama which is in Ehime. I think the city is Ehime which is in the region of Matsuyama. Um, that's one place that I really really want to visit. And of course the island of Hokkaido. I'd like to. I heard the food there is pretty great. There's a bunch of other stuff I'd like to see there, but I would also like to go there to learn about like the indigenous Ainu people who live there and such. Same with Okinawa. Okinawa is a big place I'd like to visit. It seems like it's a much more chill, relaxed region of the country. Lots of nice beaches where you can go snorkeling and clear waters and all that stuff. Obviously, I'd like to learn about the history of the Ryukyu kingdom and such, and if possible, maybe witness and encounter the traditional martial arts from that region, since karate actually derives from uh, what we now know as Okinawa, uh, but not so much in the forms that we currently see. If you're thinking of karate with like biggies and like the low stances and high kicks and all that stuff, that's a much more modern mainland Japanese edition. If you're thinking about Shotokan or Kyokushin or these major styles of karate, they come from a lineage of other traditional styles of at the time it was known as te. So there were different styles of te, respective to the regions of Okinawa that they derived from. So there was like tomari te, shuri te, all of these different types of te, all of these different types of karate that were practiced in this region. And it wasn't just like empty hand as we know as is said, as is touted as the meaning of the word karate today was. There were number one is that it wasn't just punches and kicks. There was grappling. I mean, there's still grappling and there's still throws and some takedowns in some forms of karate, modern karate today. But there was grappling. There was a little bit of stand-up wrestling. There's aspects of what we would now call judo or jujutsu that is shared within karate. But it's just because of the politics around that about like how, especially in the Olympics, you don't want to have the two things mix. So that stuff has been de-emphasized. But there was all there was that in these older forms, but there was also a lot of weapons-based martial arts. So there was a lot of different. So what was it? Kobudo, Kobujutsu was the weapons-based martial arts that would be taught alongside the empty-handed techniques that included um, punches, kicks, all limb. You weren't just using. You'd use fingers, elbows, knees, uh, joint locks, and all these sorts of things. There was a bigger variety of stuff that was taught, but there was also a variety of weapons that were taught. One thing that I would hopefully at some point in the future like to learn is the tonfa, or the bowl, like the staff. But the tonfa is like a, I don't know what it's like a, but it's the precursor to the baton. But there's a lot, the types of techniques that you learn with it is very varied. Tonfa, bo, sai are the ones that I would like to learn. If you've seen nunchucks, are also a type of weapon that was very prominent in Okinawa, because a lot of these weapons and all of these techniques actually trace their roots to southern China, not exclusively, but trace their roots to southern China, because Okinawa, or the Ryukyu Kingdom back then, was a was number one its own was somewhat of an independent society, separate from the from Japan, and it also engaged with a lot of trade. So it was a big trade center for much of Southeast Asia. So it had a lot of cultural influxes from different regions. So I say Okinawa, and what we know is karate started there, but a lot of karate can actually be traced back to southern China. Maybe you could say specifically the Fujian province. So there's a lot of forms in like a lot of southern wushu styles that are similar, right? There's surprisingly a few similarities between modern karate, Shotokan karate even, and Wing Chun, for example, right? And of course, some people suspect influences like other Southeast Asian martial arts, or South Asian martial arts like Kalari Payattu and all these. But that is owed to the fact that Okinawa was a big center for trade back then, so it had a lot of these cultural influxes. Anyway, I was talking about countries I like to visit. Yes, that's why I'd like to visit Okinawa. Oh yeah, and I also have a friend, a Japanese American friend who's from there. So I would like to go and visit Okinawa with them someday. Um, so yeah, those are the four main parts of Japan I would like to visit. And then third country I would like to visit is shit. Well, I only get to pick five. Those are the two major ones that are like a must. So if I just list them off, I was going like this is what I was supposed to do. But Lesotho, Madagascar, Ghana, Botswana. I don't know where else. Honestly, Burkina Faso. To be honest, I actually like to really visit Burkina Faso as well. Uh, North Africa, I'm not sure where I'd want to go, like specifically, like just intrinsically. Obviously, I'd like to visit Algeria because I have a friend from there, but I don't know. Hmm. There's nowhere else in Africa that stands out the most as of right now. That like is like a really big standout. Some other places I like to visit, yeah, lots of places within China. Uh, Honestly, a lot of Southeast Asian countries, but I'm not sure if I had to pick one. I'm not sure. I'd say Thailand, but it's kind of carrying with like the potential of actually being able to witness Muay Thai up in person for the first time. So I guess it's between that and Vietnam, and also learning about the history of Vietnam and such. So it's between those two. So like what, three countries? So I would say Madagascar. It's a bit of a toss up between Thailand and Vietnam. It's a bit of a toss up between Thailand and Vietnam. And I said I wanted to go visit New Zealand. Is New Zealand going to be your final one? I'm not so sure about that. I'm learning about Chile as of Chile. I've been so disinformed about the way that this country's name is pronounced that I don't remember which one is the correct one anymore. No, it's Chile. But people kept trying to tell me it was Chile for some reason. Iran, Muslim. Like, bro, why are you. No, come on. It's not that hard. Imagine I wash this bag and I find out that I'm actually wrong. That would be hilarious. It's been 24 minutes. Let's stop here. Well, I don't know. I'm scared of this thing. My phone is lagging a little bit. So I'm just scared what's going to happen. But we move. Let me just finish this question and I'll check. なんだわかんないよ。Hmm. Okay, Madagascar is my third. Now let me talk about that a little bit. So Madagascar is a peculiar place because it's somewhere. It's just this huge island just off of the southern eastern coast of Africa, so it's pretty close to a lot of countries here. I said I wanted to visit Mozambique, but that's not like a major. Oh yeah, Mozambique. I forgot Mozambique was here. I want to visit Mozambique, but it's not like a major one. If I had to pick just one other African country I want to visit, it's Madagascar because of its because it's this little isolated place. So first of all, the vegetation there is very peculiar because in some ways it looks a lot like like the plant life there is very similar to southern Africa, but also not. There's a lot of weird shit there, and that's owed to the fact that during the continental drift, as the tectonic plates were shifting and everything was running, everything across the globe was running amok. Um, Madagascar did not break off from Africa. Apparently, it broke off from Southern America. So that's the first weird thing about that place. Second weird thing, this place is what? Um, this place is filled with people who thousands of years ago migrated from uh, southern and southern-eastern Africa. So it's a lot of Bantu-speaking people, like Bantu people, like myself, but especially eastern or southern-eastern Bantu people, sometimes southern Bantu people, but also a lot of Khoi and San people. So that's the first. Those are the two major groups that from the mainland who came over thousands of years ago. But also a lot of Austronesian people from various parts of Southeast Asia. So you have this weird mix of this the this what is the word? What is the adjective I'm looking for? It's not It's not agriculture. It's fauna. I don't know. Fauna. There's an adjective I'm looking for relating to plant life. The plant life there is characteristic of the biodiversity of Southern America, but the people there are a mix of native Khoi, San, and Bantu African peoples, and also Austronesian, like all these sorts of Southeast Asian people there who formed all of all these eclectic and varied um, ethnic groups and such with varied. I know there's like a Malagasy is like the national language, but I've witnessed like there are a whole bunch of languages there that are like a very eerie combination between languages from here and from you know it's part of a language family that goes as far as Hawaii, which is like on the other side of the world. So it's just a bizarre concoction. It's utterly fascinating. And then it was colonized by the French, which that's not really the place in which they occupied. So it's just a French colonized country that's just off the fucking coast over there. The hell? It's a it's I want to visit there and learn more about it. So Madagascar for sure. The other ones are more like this seems like it'd be a fun place, but it's like it's not. They feel more familiar, or even if they're different in ways that my mind can be like, I know what this is, Mozambique. I don't know. I kind of know what this is a little bit, but yeah, Madagascar for sure is my number three. So what did I say? Lesotho, Japan, Madagascar. 4, 5, China. I'm not gonna explain. Y'all know. It doesn't matter what you read. There's China is too big, and it's Chinese. I said Chinese. Maybe I did. I said this in a different video, but it's like I don't have an affinity for Chinese culture. There are Chinese cultures, plural. It's too big. I'm not even gonna go into it. Then final one, it would have to be between New Zealand, Vietnam, or Thailand or Chile. Chile. Oh, yo. I think that's it. Next video.